At risk of generalising, just a few hundred words after saying I don't want to generalise, I firmly believe there's great joy to be found in raising children with SEN. I've always thought that the difference between conventional and SEN kids is akin to that between mainstream and more avant-garde musicians. Ordinary children are like Coldplay, a perfectly good band who are very popular, have some great songs and make lots of money. But let's be honest, Coldplay are a bit safe. There's nothing demanding about them. That's why they're so popular. Neither are they in any way cool. Seeing myself as a bit of a hipster muso in the John Peel mould, or possibly that jazz club character in The Fast Show, Coldplay were never the kind of music I wanted to listen to. At least not that I'd ever admit to in public. I was always drawn to the more experimental artists, those that really challenged the listener, that didn't give a shit about pleasing the audience and were only interested in following their muse. You wouldn't see Frank Zappa or Captain Beefheart in the shelves in Tesco. They had far too much integrity to worry about fitting in with the mainstream. The musicians I like are rebellious, alternative, and yes, cool. Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, Patti Smith, even Bjork, they are the SEN children. Yes, of course it would be simpler to have mainstream children, in much the same way that it would be easier to sit in the car and put on parachutes. But I've never been one to head down the easy route like everyone else. And so, just as I'd rather drive to Beefheart's Trout Mask replica or Kate Bush's The Dreaming, I personally love the fact I have kids with special needs. They possess the same don't-give-a-fuck attitude as Zappa and Beefheart, are too cool for mainstream school, and are only interested in doing things their way rather than following the herd. And in both cases, I can walk around with a wonderful sense of superiority. I don't listen to the music that most people listen to, nor am I raising the kids that most people are raising. They aren't for hipsters like us. We, and all the other parents of SEN kids, are connoisseurs, doing the real parenting that would probably be a bit too challenging for everyone else. Nice. As for the format of the book, I wanted to tell you about my experiences with our children, but didn't want to get too bogged down with all the chronology. I was also keen to make it as accessible as possible, with headings that were potentially useful to other parents in our situation. That is why I've opted for an A to Z, though fittingly for a book about children who often find learning difficult and who refuse to follow the normal rules, the letters are jumbled up in a seemingly random order. If you find this incredibly frustrating, then welcome to my life. Speaking of frustration, I wanted to affirm right at the top that while I find much of my children's behaviour infuriating, I love them all exactly as they are. I'll probably restate this numerous times in the book, but my editor insisted I declare it now in case any listener should doubt just how important my kids are to me. Plus, my children demanded I proclaim it immediately, presumably because they weren't entirely convinced themselves. Sorry, Blakers, I do love you very much. We're nearly ready to dive in, so I sincerely hope you enjoy listening to this book and get something out of it. I wish to apologise in advance for any crappy dad jokes, though in fairness, being a father to 6, I feel I should be permitted more than the usual quota. If you too are the parent of a Zappa, you'll doubtless recognise much of what I'm writing about and will nod along to our similar experiences. And if you're the mum or dad to a Coldplay, or if you're not a parent at all, I would love you to learn something about our lives so perhaps you can empathise with those who have children like mine. Because although this is my story, it is ultimately an account of being an SEN parent. I view this book as being for all of us, to be seen, to say our piece, so the world knows what our lives look like. I dedicate this book to you all, although the royalties will stay solely with me, I'm afraid. Don't worry about what's normal. Normal schmormal. Just keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully with a smile on your face. With much love, Ashley. Introduction. Before we get going with my promised occasionally helpful guide to parenting kids with special needs, let me introduce the players in my story and tell you a little bit about how we got here. Don't worry, I'll keep it brief and then fill in the blanks as we go. I'm Ashley. That much you should be aware of by now, seeing as you're listening to my book.